Good morning, students. After a long, unusual, unexpected gap, we are meeting again here. You all know that learning never be stopped. There is no full stop for learning, but temporarily sometimes there will be commas in learning. We are in that phase, but we have to overcome from that. We have to restart our learning. So today onwards, we will discuss our second year geology syllabus, and also we will continue the all chapters from today onwards. First of all, you have to know what are the topics you are going to learn in geology in second year. First, let me write on the board. You have to make a notes of all these topics. First of all, write down the syllabus, what you are going to learn in second year geology. In second year geology, the syllabus you are going to learn first human reproduction, In this chapter, you will learn various processes related to human reproduction. In that, you have to learn about the anatomy and also physiology of human reproduction. In that, first, human being is which type of reproducing organism, and how human will produce their offsprings. You all know that human is a sexually reproducing organism. It is a sexually dimorphic organism and viviparous organism. In this dioecious condition, we can observe means male and female sexes are completely separated. So we can call this as a dioecious or sexually dimorphic organisms. In this, we will learn first the anatomy of male reproductive system, female reproductive system, and the process of production of gametes, male and female, both gametes, that is the gametogenesis. And after that, we will discuss the fusion of male and female gametes. That process is called as fertilization. And after fertilization, how the zygote will be implanted, and after that we will discuss pregnancy, that is also called as a gestation, and embryonic development, and at last we will discuss about the process of parturition and lactation, that is human reproduction. And after completion of human reproduction, we should learn reproductive health. The second chapter here, reproductive health. In this chapter, we have to learn how to maintain a reproductively healthy society by following various scientific methods and scientific measures. And also in this chapter, we should learn how to control the rapid increase of population by using some birth control measures, that is the contraceptive methods that we have to discuss. And also you have to learn how to overcome from infertility concepts by using various assisted reproductive technologies. And also you have to learn about medical termination of pregnancies. Commonly we are using the term abortion. That process also should learn in this. And also you have to learn the sexually transmitted diseases, how the sexually transmitted diseases can spread from one person to another person in the society, and how to prevent that sexually transmitted diseases and some type of sexually transmitted diseases and their respective causative agents. Some bacterial and viral and protozoan sexually transmitted diseases are there. All that we will discuss in this chapter, reproductive health. That is the second chapter. Both chapters are related to reproduction. Okay. In first chapter, we should focus only on human being. In that, all the processes to produce a new organism, we can call that as a offspring, that we will learn in the first chapter. In second chapter, how to maintain a good reproductive health that will make a good healthy society. Okay. In that, birth control methods, that are contraceptive methods, and sexually transmitted diseases, medical terminations of pregnancy, and also we will discuss about assisted reproductive technologies. That type of concepts we will discuss in these two chapters in second year. And after completion of these two chapters, the third one we have to discuss here is, it is completely related to the process of inheritance or heredity. It is a genetics chapter, that is principles of inheritance Principles of inheritance and variations. Principles of inheritance and variations. You all know that, I think. Inheritance means the transmission of characters from one generation to the another generation. The transmission of characters from parental generation to their respective offsprings, that is inheritance. How the characters are transmitted from one generation to the another generation, from parents to offsprings. You all know that an elephant will give birth always to a baby elephant, not to any other animal. A mango tree will produce only mango fruit, not other fruits. If you plant a seed of mango, you will get only mango tree, not any other. How can it maintain? What is the exact genetic mechanism present in this constancy of species? One species will produce exactly same kind of organisms through reproduction. How it is possible? The entire mechanism responsible for this is in the form of genes in the nucleus. In the DNA, the entire information that is required to transmit the characters from generation to generation is present in the form of genes. Nowadays, we have a lot of information about the genes and genetics. So we can easily say genes are responsible for the inheritance patterns. But what about ancient days? There was no idea about the genes. There was no discovery of DNA. At that time, how the scientist experienced and believed and explained the process of inheritance? Nowadays, by using many laboratory facilities and scientific information, we can easily say it is because of genes and DNA. But without all these facilities, in ancient days, there was a scientist who was popularized as a father of genetics. He was Sir Gregor John Mendel. He is considered as a father of genetics. Without all these laboratory facilities and scientific equipments, by only external appearance and by calculations, he identified and explained about the factors that are responsible for the inheritance or transmission of characters from generation to generations. So in this chapter, we have to focus on Mendel work, that is Mendel postulates what was the experiments did by the Mendel and what was the concepts developed by the Mendel later popularized as a Mendelian laws of genetics or principles of inheritance. Okay, that is clear. And one more thing you have to observe here, there is a word variations. So all the organisms belongs to a species have same type of gene pool, they share a common gene pool, but there are some variations or differences. You know, if you observe yourself and your siblings came from a common parents, they received all the genes from common parents, but there are some differences, except in identical twins. In all other conditions, there are some differences. Because of the differences only, we can identify you and your sister or your brother separately. That is called a difference or variation. Even they are getting same genes from the parents, same DNA from the parents, but why there are variations? What is the genetic mechanism behind this? Even they came from common parents, but why there are differences? That all topics we are going to discuss here. And sometimes due to defective genes or any harmful change in the gene, we will get some type of diseases. That all are genetic diseases or chromosomal aberrations. That means due to change in the number of chromosome or due to change in the structure of chromosomes, the human and other organisms also affected by some diseases. So that also we have to discuss here. In this chapter, we are going to learn about what is a gene, what is genetics, how these genes were discovered, and what is the role of genes in the pattern of transmission of characters from generation to generation or from parents to offspring or to maintain the constancy of a species. And what was the work done by the Mendel to identify this, and what was the laws or principles given by the Mendel to understand the concepts of inheritance. And later, after Mendel, some more geneticists given some new concepts like crossing over, linkage, chromosomal theory, all that also we have to discuss here. And You know, in human being, there is two sexes, male and female, are completely separated. So human being is a dioecious form or sexually dimorphic form. In that, to get a male offspring or female offspring, who is responsible, either male or female? Not only in human being, in other organisms also. How can we determine the gender or sex of an organism? That is sex determination. The topics also we are going to discuss in this chapter. That is the principles of inheritance and variations. At last in this chapter, we have to discuss about T.H. Morgan's work and also all the disorders, chromosomal aberrations as well as Mendelian diseases, which are also called as point mutations, that are because of point mutations, that type of diseases takes place. Okay, that is the third chapter, which has a good weightage for NEET examination and also for your PUC examination. After completion of these principles of inheritance and variations, is it clear about three chapters? Human reproduction, reproductive health, principles of inheritance and variations. Human reproduction is completely related to reproductive process in the human being. In that, male reproductive system, female reproductive system, and the process of production of gametes, that is the gametogenesis, and after that, the menstrual cycle in female human being, and the fusion of gametes, that is the fertilization, and after that how this zygote will implanted, that means the blastocyst will implanted into the uterus, and how it will modifies into a fetus, that is the embryogenesis, and after that embryonic development, all the processes we have to discuss. At last how the baby, that means the fetus will be expelled out, that is delivery, we can commonly call as delivery. So that process parturition, at last human being will nourishes its baby by giving milk, that is lactation. Okay, and that process also we have to discuss in first, and after that already I told you in second chapter, it is completely related to maintain a good reproductive health by the person and also by the society, how to reduce populations or how to regulate the population by using various type of birth control methods that we have to discuss. After that, sexually transmitted diseases, modes of sexually transmitted diseases, how can that will spread, and how can we prevent that type of diseases, and all we discuss in this chapter, that is a reproductive health, and also infertility, how to overcome from infertility by using assisted reproductive technologies, and a small topic, that is the medical termination of pregnancies, that is commonly known as induced or intentional abortion before completion of gestation period, all that we discussed in this chapter. At last, in third, what I gave here is principles of inheritance and variations. It is completely related to transmission of characters from generation to generation. It is essential to maintain constancy of species, at the same time to enhance the better characters from generation to generation. In this Mendel work we have to discuss, and after that various new concepts like crossing over, linkage, chromosomal theory, and all we have to discuss, and we have to discuss how to determine or identify the gender or sex of a fetus or embryo, we have to discuss here. And after completion of that, at last we have to discuss, is there any differences or is there any harmful changes in the genes or chromosomes that leads to various type of diseases, either by increase in the number of chromosomes or by change in the structure of chromosomes or by change in a single base pair of a gene. How could the person will be affected by the diseases? All that we have to learn in this chapter, that is the principles of inheritance and variations. And after completion of this chapter, we are going to learn the next chapter, that is evolution. Evolution is a fourth chapter in your second PUC zoology syllabus. Here, observe once, evolution in our common terms or simple terms is nothing but a change, a continuous change which will make a simple form to a complex form, a normal organism to a better surviving form. That is evolution. Evolution is very simple. It is a continuous modification or continuous change in the organisms that will take organism from a normal condition to better condition, from simple form to complex form. That is evolution. See, evolution is a continuous process. Maybe you all know that the life was originated in the form of a single cell on the earth. that is a prokaryotic cell. Before that prokaryotic cell, there was a connecting link between living and non-living was aroused, that is viruses. Later from viruses, prokaryotic bacteria was aroused, and after that many unicellular organisms later that modified into multicellular organisms, and finally the most evolved human being arose. How all this was done? From a simple, invisible single cell to the most complex, the largest, the largest living organism, Balanoptera musculus, that is the blue whale. If you can imagine, from an invisible cell to the most complex and a large, huge structure like a blue whale, or scientifically named as Balanoptera musculus, how this modification was done? From invisible cell to this much of huge life. If you observe, there are many different forms of life forms. We can call that as a diversity. How this diversity was developed on the earth from a single cell? That is by evolution. Evolution never stops. There is no full stop for evolution, but sometimes there may be commas. Evolution will temporarily stop, but it is not permanent. Our learning is like this only now. Our learning never stop continuously. It is a continuous process. It never stop. But sometimes there may be commas, like now what the condition we are facing here is just like a comma, but there is no full stop for the evolution. Like that, there is no full stop for the learning. We are just in a comma phase that you have to remember. But one thing you have to remember, I told you evolution never stops, but there may be comma now. So this year, evolution got that comma, because to reduce the syllabus, this year, this chapter is temporarily, not permanently. I told you, evolution never stops. It is a continuous process. So it is temporarily kept aside this year due to lack of time. To reduce the syllabus, they temporarily deleted, not permanent. Evolution never be deleted, evolution never be stopped. It is a temporary gap that you have to remember. Okay, it is just like a temporary interval. Next year, this chapter will be continued. In this chapter, a fantastic topics you are going to discuss and you are going to learn. But this year you don't have this opportunity. If you have interest, learn this by your own. We will also try to teach if time supports. Next, after evolution, strategies for enhancement in food production. Sorry, 1 second. Before going to discuss that, strategies for enhancement in food production, we have to discuss human health and diseases. One of the most useful and one of the most dangerous, that is human health and diseases. Nowadays, we are all well known about these diseases. Because of this only, this program, this video lectures or online teaching program is there. So in this, we have to learn about what is health, how to maintain a good health, what is the diseases, what are the various type of diseases, how a person will be affected by the diseases, what are the various biological agents, we can commonly known as pathogens that causes for the diseases. Many viruses causes for many diseases in human being, many bacteria, protozoan and helminths parasites also causes for many diseases in human being that act as a parasites and causes for the diseases. So all the topics we are going to discuss in this chapter, that is the human health and diseases, human health and diseases. So in this, what is health, what is the disease, what are the types of diseases, what are the disease causing agents, and various type of common diseases in human being we have to discuss. And after that, how could a human being fight successfully against these diseases? Is there any system responsible for that? Protective mechanism in our body? We all know that immune system is responsible to maintain our health. to maintain our health, a particular system is present in our body and that protects our body from pathogens or foreign bodies or antigens. Okay. So we have to discuss about immunity here. In that, immunity. How immune system protects our body, what are the types of immunity in human being, and what are the various type of cells involved in the immunity, and what are the various type of barriers that protects our body. Okay, all that topics also we have to discuss in this chapter. And after completion of that, we have to discuss some type of drugs and their effects on the health of human being, alcohol and its effects on the human body. Okay, drugs and alcohol abuse and how to overcome from this type of drugs and alcohol abuses. And also we have to discuss some communicable and non-communicable diseases here, some fatal diseases like AIDS and cancers, all that we have to discuss in this chapter. So in this chapter, human health and diseases, we are going to discuss about health. What is health? How to maintain a good health? What is a disease? What are the types of disease? And how diseases will spread from one person to another person? What are the causative agents for these diseases? Either viruses or bacteria or fungus or helminthids, helminthids or protozoans, whatever the organisms that will act as a parasites and causes for various type of diseases, that all we have to discuss here. And after that, how to fight against this disease causing agents. What is the mechanism exactly present in our body to fight successfully against this disease causing agents? That is immune system. We have to discuss immune system. What are the types of immunity? What are the immunal cells? And what are the organs? And what are the various processes that successfully protect our body? That we have to discuss in this. And after completion of that, we have to discuss about one communicable fatal disease, that is HIV/AIDS, the structure of HIV virus, the mode of transmissions, and how could it affect the immune system of human being, how to prevent the transmission of this type of fatal STDs like AIDS. And after that, a non-communicable fatal disease, that is a cancers. In that, what is the tumor, what are the types of tumors, what are the types of cancers, how to diagnose the cancers, what are the symptoms of the cancer cells, and how to prevent the how to get cure from the cancers. That is the treatment of cancers, all that we have to discuss here. And at last in this chapter, especially the teenagers or adolescent people will easily attracted and addicted towards the drugs and alcohol. Because of that, we have to learn drugs and alcohol abuses, how to overcome from the type of drugs and alcohol abuses and all in this chapter, that is human health and diseases. I am not giving any weightage to these chapters here because this year they reduce the syllabus, so our blueprint will changes and also the weightage will be modified. Because of that, I am not giving any weightage. This year they reduced some chapters, because of that weightage will be changes. Later I will give you the weightage for each chapter. Just you have to get an idea about each and every chapter, what are the concepts you are going to learn. Next, after completion of this, human health and diseases, next strategies for enhancement in food production. Strategies for enhancement in food production. That is the next chapter we are going to learn in zoology. Actually, it is not only zoology topic, it is related to both botany and zoology. You know, the world population have been enormously increases. At the same time, the area available for the agriculture practices have been reduced. In one hand, the populations of the world have been enormously increased. In another hand, the area available for agriculture practices have been decreasing. So if we compare these two, increase in the population, decrease in the land availability for the agriculture. So automatically there will be a scarcity for the food materials for the human populations. Human populations are rapidly increases, but the area available for the agriculture is greatly decreases. So that will causes for imbalance in the production of food and increase in the populations. So how to overcome from this problem? We have to follow new strategies to enhance or to increase the productivity in less area, more productivity within short period of time. We have to get. For that, the scientists have been developing many mechanisms and methods to modify the plants and animals, which will give more yielding or more productivity in short time, in short period of time, and in less space. Then only we can meet the food requirements of human being, otherwise there is no possibility. Okay, so to satisfy the food needs of human being, the scientists have been applying the biological techniques or biological methods to enhance the productivity or yielding capacity and to reduce the time required for yielding and productivity. So to satisfy the food requirements of human being, what are the strategies the scientists have been developed to enhance the food productivity? We are going to discuss here. You all know that there are many genetically modified plants, many genetically modified crops are available, hybrid crops are available that will give more yielding in less time. And this plant material or plant food only not enough to satisfy all food needs of human being, especially to satisfy the protein food needs of human being. Animal food is very, very essential. Animal food means it is meat, milk, egg, etc. So this animal food contain more protein quantity than plant food. So plant food only not enough to satisfy food requirements of human being. Along with that, animal food also very essential to satisfy the food needs of human being, especially the protein food needs of human being and vitamin food needs of human being. This is a essential process. Okay, so because of that, here we will discuss both the strategies: how to enhance the productivity in plants, how to enhance the productivity in animals. Both we will discuss. Strategies for enhancement in food production by both the plants and animals. You will learn how to enhance the productivity in plants in the part of botany. In zoology, you will learn how to enhance the productivity in animals. Okay, that is, in these various concepts are there. Animal husbandry is there. In that, poultry farm, dairy farm, beekeeping, sericulture, like that. Some topics you are going to learn. But this year, they deleted some topics related to animal husbandry, and at the same time you have to learn only animal breeding techniques here. You know, if you observe in your areas, there are different type of cows are available. Our native cows, that is indigenous varieties, at the same time some foreign varieties also there. If you observe, Jersey is one of the famous cow that is available throughout India. And if you compare this Jersey cow with a local cow, that is indigenous variety, which will give more yielding, more productivity, more milk, which will give, you all know that Jersey will give more milk than our indigenous cow. Our indigenous cow will give only 2 to 3 liters per day, but this Jersey cow will give 30 to 40 liters per day. Why? Because of that only our Indian cow is called as teacup cow. Teacup cow. It is not means cow is in teacup. It is not means like that. Teacup cow means the milk is enough for only tea. Because the less product, it has a very less productivity when compared with foreign varieties. Okay, how these modifications was done in foreign cows? By using animal breeding techniques. They developed that new varieties which will give more yielding. All the techniques they have to learn here. Okay, that is strategies for enhancement in food production. That is the fifth chapter you have to learn here. And after completion of that, the next chapter, that is related to ecology. In ecology, there are 4 chapters, 2 chapters in botany, 2 chapters in zoology we are teaching. But this time, 2 chapters from botany is deleted. Only 2 chapters are there that we will learn in the zoology part. One is organisms and populations. Organisms and populations. Organisms and population, it is the first chapter in the ecology. It is also one of the very easy and interesting topic. What is an organism? How the organisms are made up of? You all know that the entire matter in the universe is made up of a minute structures that is called atoms. A group of atoms will form a molecule. A group of molecule, in the terms of our biology, a group of biomolecules will form a cell. A group of cells will form a tissue. A group of tissues will form an organ. A group of organs will form organism. You know. So again, a group of organisms that are similar in their morphology, that can interpret within the group, that can share a common gene pool, is called as species. A group of organisms belongs to same species is called a population. So in this chapter, organisms and populations, first of all, we have to discuss what are the factors present in the ecosystems, either biotic and abiotic, both the type of factors we have to discuss here. Factors of ecosystem, biotic factors and abiotic factors, and after that, what are the various type of ecosystems, what are the various type of habitats. So you all know that all the areas means all the habitat means just a place where the organisms are living. If you observe the abiotic factors like temperature, water, climatic conditions, soil, salinity, the type of conditions are not similar in various regions. If you observe the desert, the temperature is very high and rainfall is very low. Okay, sometimes if you observe rainfall means it is the liquid water falls, but sometimes in some areas snowfall also there. We can collectively call this rainfall and snowfall as a precipitation. Based on the precipitation and the temperature, there is formation of different type of habitats. In some habitats, more temperature, but very less precipitation. That type of areas will modify as deserts. If you observe the polar regions, how is the temperature? How is the mean annual temperature? The mean annual temperature is very, very less, but the precipitation is very high. The snowfall is more there. So that is modified like that polar regions or that tundra-like regions. If you observe the near equator, if you observe near equator on either sides of equator, how is the temperature and how is the rainfall or precipitation? High temperatures and high precipitation. So that is modified as a tropical rainforest. So based on different type of abiotic factors, there is formation of different type of habitats. We have to study about various type of habitats and the conditions in that various type of habitats. At the same time, what is the effect of these abiotic factors on the distribution of biotic factors on the earth, and how these abiotic factors will causes for modifications in the biotic factors. For example, if you go for a desert, what will happen in your body? If you go to a polar region, what will happen in your body? Are you responding to external conditions in that particular area? If you go to desert, what will happen in your body? Your body starts sweating. It is response to external factor, abiotic factor. If you go to a polar region, what will happen in your body? Your body starts shivering. It is also a response to the external factor, that is nothing but a temperature, abiotic factor. So like that, all the organisms will show their responses to abiotic factors. What are the responses to abiotic factors in the organism we have to discuss in this chapter. At the same time, organisms will get some adaptations. If you know, camel, a desert animal, if you observe the skin of camel, how is it? The eyebrows of camel, eyelashes of camel. What are the modifications done? If you observe a cactus plants or opuntia, which are desert plants, is there any modifications in that? Why that are modified? We can call that type of modifications as adaptations to abiotic factors. Okay, that also we have to discuss here. Here in this chapter, we have to discuss the environmental organization, and after that we have to discuss biotic and abiotic factors, the formation of various type of habitats, distribution of life, and the habit and various type of habitats. At the same time, what are the effects of abiotic factors and the biotic factors, that means living organisms. At the same time, the adaptations of living organisms to adjust in changes of these abiotic factors that we have to discuss in this chapter. Along with that, in this chapter, one of the important topics we have to discuss is the interactions between species or populations. See, without interaction between two species or more than two species, there will be no chances for the existing of organisms. For example, if we see the honeybee, honeybee can survive with the help of crops. The nectar and pollen which is required for the survival of this honeybee to prepare honey and pollen and nectar, the interaction is required between the crops and honeybee. Without that interaction, there is no possibility for the survival. For example, if you observe the animals and plants, is there any interaction between them? If there is no interaction between animals and plants, what will happen? Animals cannot get their food from the plants. And also there is interaction between many species. Interaction is there between animals and plants. Interaction is there between plants and plants. Interaction is there between animals to animals. Okay. For example, if you see the interaction between tiger and deer, there is interaction between tiger and deer. Which type of interaction? This interaction between the tiger and deer is beneficial for one species and harmful for another species. It is beneficial for which one? Tiger. And it is harmful for deer. So this type of interaction which is beneficial for superior species and harmful for inferior species, we can name that as a predation. Tiger is the predator and deer is the prey. This is one type of population interactions or species interactions. In population interactions, predation is only one type. Like that, many interactions are there. For example, we will see the interaction between crops and honeybees. It is beneficial for honeybee as well as for crops. How it is beneficial for crops? You know, honeybees are good pollinators. That will help for the cross pollination of crops. So that is beneficial for crops as well as honeybees. So in this interaction, both the species will get their benefits. It is beneficial for both the species. The type of interaction is called as mutualism. That is mutualism. If you will see, a parasite will enters into the body of a host. That is beneficial for parasite and harmful for a host. One species is beneficial, another species is detrimental. That means harmful. So in that concept, the beneficial one is parasite, harmful one is host. So that type of interaction we can call as a parasitism. Parasitism. So mutualism, predation, parasitism is. Along with that, if there is a single deer in a forest, but two carnivorous animals like a tiger and lion, what will happen? A single deer, one side tiger, another side lion, what will happen? Limited food, but more competition. Limited food and more organisms required a common food, common requirement is there. So that is competition. That is also a type of interaction. In the place of this lion, if there is a fox, a tiger and fox, in between them a rabbit, what will happen? Tiger will catch the rabbit and due to lack of food, fox will die. If tiger and lion is there, if both will fight for a deer, if deer will escape, what will happen? Both tiger and lion will die. So competition. Competition is the interaction between two species, harmful for both the species. Unfortunately, nowadays, many of our human relations also like competitions. Our human relations should be like a mutualism. Mutualism means that is beneficial for both the species. For example, the interaction between you and me, that is a student and teacher, is a mutualism. It must be like a mutualism. It is beneficial for you and also beneficial for me. The interaction between you and your friend, if it will be mutualism, that is beneficial for both. If it is competition, If it is healthy competition, that's okay. If it is harmful competition, means just 2 days before of exam, if you stolen your notes of your friend, or your friend stolen your record, what will happen? That is harmful for both. So that is also one type of interaction, that is competition. Along with that, commensalism and amensalism also there, and various type of modifications also we have to discuss in this chapter, organisms and populations. Just I am giving the introduction of chapter, what are the concepts you have to focus and you have to learn from this chapter, are that, right? At last, in second year zoology syllabus, you have to learn biodiversity and conservation. Biodiversity and conservation. Biodiversity and conservation. Already I told you, what is the diversity? Diversity means difference or variety. Difference or variety. If you go to a flower garden, you can notice different type of flowers. All that are plants, all that are flowering plants. But why there is a variation in the size of flowers, color of flowers, and smell of flowers? That is actually called as diversity. If you go to a forest, you can notice different type of butterflies, different colors, different sizes. Why there is a difference? Even that belongs to same species, why there are some differences? So the variety of life present at various levels of biological organization on the earth is called biodiversity. The variety of life, the life is not similar. There is a great variation in life forms on the earth. If you go and observe a zoo, a small zoo, different type of animals you can notice. If you go to a botanical garden, different type of plants you can notice. All these are living organisms, but why there is differences between them? You can imagine if you go to a big forest, different type of birds, different type of plants, different colors of flowers, different type of insects you can notice, different type of fishes. You know, if you observe in an aquarium, different type of colors, different type of sizes, different patterns of their fins, that type of fishes you can notice. If you observe the frogs, if you observe the lizards, snakes, whatever the life, birds, different modifications were done in that during the evolutionary process that created a great treasure of diversity on the earth, that is the biodiversity. But unfortunately, because of human activities, many of these diversified life forms have been decreasing and many are extincted. Many are completely extincted. See, the national bird of Mauritius, dodo. Dodo bird is the national bird of Mauritius. The dodo bird is not available now. It was completely extincted because of human activity. You know, our well-known birds, sparrows. If you observe 15 to 20 years back, there were many sparrows that roaming around our houses that will enter into our houses. But now, to identify the sparrows, you have to go for a search. Then only you can notice. Because sparrow population have been decreasing. You all know that. So because of human activities, there is a great decrease or great loss to biodiversity. In this chapter, we have to discuss what is biodiversity, what are the types of diversities, and also what are the causes for the loss of biodiversity, and how to conserve the biodiversity. Along with this, patterns of biodiversity, how the biodiversity is distributed on the earth. So, what is biodiversity? What are the types of biodiversity? What are the patterns of biodiversity? What are the causes for the loss of biodiversity? And how to conserve the biodiversity? That are the main concepts we are going to discuss. But it is not that much of important for examinations, but it is very important for us to protect our nature and to protect our biodiversity. In biodiversity or in ecosystem, if all species are in a balanced state, then only the ecosystem will be stable. Otherwise, that will show its effects finally on human survival. So this is the syllabus you are going to learn in your second year. So total 8 chapters are there. once again I am repeating, the first chapter you are going to learn here is human reproduction, followed by reproductive health, and after that principles of inheritance and variations. After that evolution, which is reduced for this year, temporarily removed for this year. uh, you no need to study this for your NEET exam or your PUC exam for this year. They temporarily removed this. And after that, human health and diseases, which is one of the very useful not only for exams and also to maintain your health and to avoid the diseases, to protect yourself. Okay, it is also very important chapter. And strategies for enhancement in food production. In this, 50% of portion is related to botany and 50% of portion is related to zoology. And after that, ecology chapters, two ecology chapters are there. Organisms and populations, one of the very important topics are there in this chapter for NEET examination. And after that, at last, a small chapter, very important chapter, that is the biodiversity and conservation. This is the syllabus you are going to learn in your second year zoology. Okay. All of you, write down this, all the portion. In first page of your zoology notebook, you have to maintain this 8 chapters. You have to write down in your first page of a zoology notebook, right? When compared with first year, the second year chapters are very easy. That is a good news for you. When compared with first year zoology chapters, you know how difficulty the chapters are. In first year, animal kingdom, structural organization, biomolecules, face a little difficulty in that, because the majority of the chapters are related to memory based chapters. But here in second year, all the chapters are conceptual mainly, so it is very easy for you. That is completed about the syllabus. Next, we'll start the first chapter in zoology, that is human reproduction. All of you maintain your notes. Write down your notes, whatever the important concepts I will write on the board. That keywords and key concepts you have to write in your notes. Human reproduction, already I think you learned about reproduction in organisms and sexual reproduction in flowering plants. The 2 chapters you may learn in botany. Now it is related to completely animals, that is human reproduction. First of all, you have to know what is reproduction. Before going to discuss about the details of human reproductive systems, first you have to know what is reproduction. The name itself explains the meaning. Reproduction. Once again I am repeating, reproduction. What it means? Already existed organisms, already surviving organisms again produce new organisms. Already produced organisms again produce new organisms. That is a reproduction. Reproduction means already existing organisms or already surviving organisms will produce new organisms which are called as offsprings. Okay, very simple. By name you can understand this. Reproduction means already existing organisms will produce a new organisms. But more scientifically, what is reproduction? The ability of an organism to produce new organisms or offsprings by its own kind, means that belongs to its same species, that are belongs or that similar to their parents. The ability of an organism to produce new organisms of its own kind that belongs to its own species, that is reproduction. Write down, what is reproduction? The ability of an organism, the ability of an organism to produce new organisms to produce new organisms of its own kind. The ability of an organism to produce new organisms of its own kind is called reproduction. Every organism will produce new organisms which are belongs to same species or which are similar to their parents, that I wrote here as a own kind. Okay, once again listen, what is reproduction means? The ability of an organism to produce new organisms of its own kind is called reproduction. This reproduction may be divided into two types based on involvement of number of parents, that are asexual reproduction, asexual reproduction, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Reproduction is broadly classified into two types, mainly based on the number of parents involved in the reproduction and also based on the fusion of gametes. It is of two types: asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction. What is asexual reproduction? How many parents are involved in asexual reproduction? The reproduction carried out by a single parent, only one parent can able to produce new organisms, that is asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, how many parents are involved in the production of offsprings? Only one. If a single parent is involved in the production of offspring, that is asexual reproduction, and in this type of asexual reproduction, there may be production of gametes or no production. In majority of the cases, there is no production, but in sometimes there will be production of gametes, but there is no fusion of gametes. So, the production of new organisms or offsprings takes place by involvement of a single parent with gametes or without gametes, but without fusion of gametes, without fusion of gametes. There may be production of gametes or without production of gametes. In majority of the conditions, gametes are not produced. In very less cases, there is the production of gametes, but gametes never fuse. The process of fusion of gametes is called fertilization. So, which process is not takes place in the asexual reproduction? Fertilization. So, fertilization never takes place in the asexual reproduction. So, there are two types of reproductions: asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, it is a process carried out by a single parent by producing or without producing of gametes, without fertilization, that is without fusion of gametes. You all know that gamete means a haploid reproductive cell which has an ability to form a zygote. Gamete means a haploid reproductive cell, either male or female reproductive cell. It is always haploid in nature. Gametes are haploid in majority of the sexually reproducing organisms. In almost all sexual reproducing organisms, gametes are haploid. So the haploid reproductive cells which has ability to form a zygote or to produce a zygote is a gamete. You know, male gametes are the sperms and female gametes are the ova or ovum. Ovum is female gamete, sperm is male gamete. Spermatozoa is plural, ova is plural. Okay, so that is asexual reproduction. There are different type of asexual reproductions. Maybe you learnt in the chapter organism, sexual reproduction in organisms. In that reproduction in organisms, you learnt all the type of asexual reproductions. In first year also, you studied some type of asexual reproductions like fragmentation, budding, regeneration, sporulation, that is a spore formation. The type of asexual reproductions are there. But in this chapter, in human reproduction, we have to focus only on the sexual reproduction. Then, after completion of asexual reproduction, what is the sexual reproduction? How many parents are involved in the sexual reproduction? There is involvement of two parents, one male and one female parent, mother and father. Normally we are using the terms. It is a biparental. So there is involvement of two parents. Gamete production is must and fusion of gametes also must. So here the process of production of offsprings by involvement of two parents by producing and fusion of gametes is called sexual reproduction. What is sexual reproduction? The process of production of offsprings, the process of production of offsprings by involvement of two parents, with production and fusion of gametes, the process of production of offsprings by involvement of two parents, with production and fusion of gametes, is called sexual reproduction. Once again, check it once, all of you. Definition for sexual reproduction: the process of production of offsprings by involvement of two parents with production and fusion of gametes is called sexual reproduction. Human being is a sexually reproducing organism. In human beings, sexes are completely separated as a male and female. So it is a sexually dimorphic organism or dioecious form. Dioecious means there are two forms, male and female form. So human being is a dioecious or sexually dimorphic and sexual reproducing organism with the nature of viviparity. Human being is a viviparous, sexually dimorphic. Sexual dimorphism is well noticed in human being. Human being is a viviparous, sexually dimorphic organism. Sexual reproduction is noticed, only sexual reproduction possible in human being. What is viviparity? You all know that. What is viviparity means? The organism which nourishes their babies, the organisms which will give direct birth to young one is viviparous. The viviparous organisms will give direct birth to young one. But oviparous, you all know that there is egg laying. If the animal will lay the egg and after that it will hatch the egg and produce the offspring, that is oviparous. But viviparous, that will give birth directly to young one. So that is viviparous. Human being cannot lay the egg, you all know that. Human being will give birth directly to young one, so it is a viviparous. In human being, sexes are completely separated, so it is sexually dimorphic. And human being is a continuous breeder. continuous breeder. You all know that majority of the animals are seasonal breeders. If you observe the birds can reproduce only in a particular season, not throughout the year. But unlike of that, human being can able to reproduce throughout the year. So human being is a continuous breeder, not a seasonal breeder. That also you have to remember. It is a viviparous, sexually reproducing, sexually dimorphic, a continuous breeder. Human being is. That is types of reproduction: asexual and sexual reproductions. In asexual reproduction, a single parent will involve, it will produce the gametes or it cannot produce the gametes, but there is no chances for the fusion of gametes. Fertilization is completely absent in the asexual reproduction. But whereas in sexual reproduction, there is involvement of two parents, they will produce the gametes and the fusion of gametes are must. That is, fertilization will be must in the sexual reproduction. And one more important thing you have to notice in between this sexual and sexual reproduction, in asexual reproduction, the offsprings which are produced by a single parent are identical to its parent and also identical between them. All the offsprings are identical between them and also they are identical to their parents. So we can call them as a clones. You know, clone means identical or exact copy. So the offsprings of asexual reproduction are clones. Clone means exact copy or just like a Xerox copy, okay, similar to each other. So in asexual reproduction, all offsprings are similar to each other, identical copies to each other. So there is no differences, no variations between them. So we can call that as a clones. The offsprings which are produced by asexual reproduction are called as clones because that are identical to each other. There is no possibility for variations. If there is no variations, there will be no chances for modification of one organism to the next level, or there is no chances for change in the organism's morphology or anatomy from one phase to another phase. From a simple phase to complex phase, there is no possibility. Variations are required for the modification of organism from one species to another species. The modification of organisms from one species to another species is called evolution, but here there is no variations in the asexual reproduction, so it cannot play any role in the evolution. So asexual reproduction cannot play any role in the evolution. So there is no chances for any variations, so it cannot play any role in the evolution. Variations are completely absent in the asexual reproduction, so there is no role in the evolution. But sexual reproduction causes for variations. Variations are very common in the sexual reproduction, which are essential for evolution. So sexual reproduction play a vital role in the evolution. Very important thing. Asexual reproduction has no role in the evolution because it produces all similar or identical copies, that is clones. But sexual reproduction has variations that will causes for evolution. That you have to remember. Is it clear? What is reproduction? What are the types of reproduction? And what are the differences between asexual and sexual reproduction? Based on this information, we can make a table for differences of asexual and sexual reproduction, right? Okay, now we will discuss about human reproduction. You know what is reproduction, what is asexual reproduction, what is sexual reproduction. Now, human reproduction. Human reproduction. In that, already I told you, human is a sexually reproducing, viviparous, dioecious, continuous breeder. Human is a sexually reproducing, viviparous, Viviparous. Dioecious means there is separation of male and female sexes. So in human being, we can notice male and female separately. Male and female sexes are completely separated. So sexual dimorphism is present. It is called as dioecious. Sexual dioecious and continuous breeder. There is no seasonal breeding in this, a continuous breeder. So in this chapter, what are the topics we are going to learn? In the chapter human reproduction, what are the concepts we are going to learn? First, you have to notice once. First, you have to learn here the male reproductive system. Write down all of you this. What are the concepts you are going to learn here? The male reproductive system. The male reproductive system. In this male reproductive system, the structure of male reproductive systems, various organs present in the male reproductive system and their respective structure and function, all that we have to discuss in this concept, the male reproductive system. And after male reproductive system, the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system, the male reproductive system, the female reproductive system, and after that we have to learn about the process of production of male and female gametes, that is spermatozoa and ova, that is gametogenesis. Gametogenesis. Gametogenesis, the process of production of gametes by male and female organisms is gametogenesis. In this gametogenesis, there are two types of gametes produced by human being. One is male gamete, that is spermatozoa. Another one is female gamete, that is ova. So the process of production of male gametes, that is spermatozoa, is called spermatogenesis. In this gametogenesis, spermatogenesis, that is production of male gametes, spermatozoa. Spermatogenesis. And the production of ova, that is female gametes, is called oogenesis. Production of male gametes, spermatogenesis, and the production of female gametes, oogenesis. That are two important concepts in the gametogenesis. Gametogenesis is the process of production of male and female gametes. In that, particularly production of male gametes is spermatogenesis, and production of ova is oogenesis. The two concepts you are going to learn in that topic. Next, menstrual cycle in a female human being. Menstrual cycle in female human being. In this, what are the phases in menstrual cycle and how menstrual cycle is hormonally regulated? That you have to learn. Menstrual cycle in female. Okay. Huh? 12? 15. ఎంతవరకు చేశారు 2 hours అన్నాడు 2 hours కదా వీళ్ళు 2 hours 45 minutes. Okay, in menstrual cycle we are going to learn how the reproductive cycle takes place in female human being and what are the phases in that, how it is hormonally regulated, that you have to learn. Next, after that, fertilization and implantation. Fertilization and implantation. The next concept you are going to learn here is fertilization and implantation. What is fertilization? You all know that. What is fertilization? The process of fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. The process of fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. And after fertilization, there is formation of a diploid cell, that is zygote. This zygote will undergo repeated mitotic divisions called as cleavages. The repeated mitotic divisions takes place in the zygote are called cleavages. These cleavages will convert unicellular zygote into multicellular embryo. Multicellular embryo through many stages. I will give you that later. Just remember fertilization. The process of fusion of male and female gametes is called fertilization. After this fertilization, there is formation of zygote. This zygote will undergo repeated mitotic divisions that are called cleavages. These cleavages will convert unicellular zygote into multicellular embryo. Okay. Implantation. See, during formation of embryo, there are different stages develops. In first, you see up here, whenever there is fusion of male and female gamete, if it is ovum, it is sperm. Whenever the sperm and ovum will meet, that leads to formation of a single cell. You know, sperm is haploid, ovum also haploid. By fusion of this sperm and ovum, there is formation of a diploid cell. That diploid cell is called ఇంకో 20 minutes కాన్సెప్ట్స్ అయిపోతేనే అప్రోచ్ చేసేసి. Okay, listen, all of you. Here, whenever a male gamete and a female gamete will fuses, a sperm and ovum will fuses, that will form a diploid cell. This diploid cell is called a zygote. The haploid sperm and a haploid ovum will fuse and form a diploid cell, that is a zygote. See, in this zygote, repeated mitotic divisions will take place. After formation of zygote, zygote undergoes repeated mitotic divisions. This repeated mitotic divisions which takes place, repeated mitotic divisions takes place in the zygote are called cleavages. Cleavages. What is a cleavage? The repeated mitotic divisions takes place in the zygote are called cleavages. Whenever there is a fusion of male and female gametes which are haploid in nature, that leads to formation of a diploid cell, that is a zygote. This zygote will undergo repeated mitotic divisions which are called as cleavages. Now, the unicellular zygote is modified into multicellular stage. In this, whenever zygote will undergo this repeated mitotic division and there is formation of a ball of cells or a mass of cells. Observe here, before it is a single zygote. Now by cleavages it is modified into multicellular. It is 2n, but it is a single. Okay, it is a zygote. What happened in this zygote? It undergone repeated mitotic divisions that are called as cleavages. Because of cleavages, this unicellular cell modified into multicellular. It appears like a mulberry fruit. You know, mulberry fruit. So like that, it appeared like a mulberry fruit. So it was named as morula. Morula. So now, in this morula, what is the number of cells? This newly formed cells in this zygote by repeated mitotic divisions that are cleavages is called as blastomers. This newly formed cells by cleavages are called blastomers. So there is formation of blastomers in the morula. The unicellular zygote undergo cleavages that leads to formation of a multicellular mulberry-like structure, that is morula, which contain 8 to 32 blastomers. What is the number of cells here? 8 to 32. These newly formed cells are blastomers. Okay, the zygote undergone cleavages and produced blastomers. The embryonic stage with 8 to 32 blastomas is called morula. Okay. After formation of morula, what will happen here is the cells which are present in the morula will arrange into two layers like this. The morula now, by rearrangement of cells, see, this is one outer layer. The cells are arranged in two layers, one outer layer, and inside of that one inner layer is formed like this. Observe. See, this is a morula. Now the cells in the morula is rearranged into two layers, inner layer and outer layer. This stage of embryo is called blastula. It is called blastula. Here two layers are there. One is outer layer, that is the blastocyst. Blastocyst. And the inner layer, it is inner cell mass. Inner cell mass. So which is the first stage after fertilization? That is the zygote. It will modify into morula. Morula will modify into blastula. But in the case of human being, blastula is a very short period. It is immediately modifies into a cyst-like structure, blastocyst. If you observe here, in this blastula, there is a cavity which is filled with a fluid. So blastula contain a fluid-filled cavity. The fluid-filled cavity is usually called as cyst. Cyst means a fluid-filled cavity. In human being, the blastula contain a fluid-filled cavity, so we can call the blastula of human being as a blastocyst. Blastocyst. It is the third stage. Blastocyst. Observe carefully. Whenever there is fusion of male and female gametes, which are haploid cells, that leads to formation of a diploid cell, that is the zygote. Zygote is a unicellular structure. It will undergo repeated mitotic divisions, which are called as cleavages. Cleavages converts this unicellular zygote into multicellular morula. This morula has 8 to 32 blastomas. The newly formed cells by mitotic divisions in the zygote are called as blastomas. Now, morula will undergo again rearrangement of blastomas and leads to formation of a blastula stage. This blastula possesses a fluid-filled cavity, so we can call this as a blastocyst. After formation of blastocyst, what will happen? So this all process will done in the fallopian tubes of female reproductive system. This entire process will done in the fallopian tubes of female reproductive system, but this blastocyst have to enter into the uterus and further development will take place in the uterus. So for example, observe, if it is fallopian tube. Here fertilization takes place. For example, I will give all the details of this at the time of discussing about the fertilization. Just observe. This is a fallopian tube where the fertilization takes place. Zygote will form. After that, morula will form, and during transport of this morula from fallopian tube to uterus, there is formation of blastocyst. Now it is uterus. Just observe. It is uterus. Okay. This blastocyst which is formed during the transport, okay, have to attach the innermost wall of the uterus. Like this, uterus has three walls. I will give you all the details later. Just observe. The innermost layer of uterus is called endometrium. It is endometrium. So the blastocyst which is formed here will reach the uterus and it is attached to the inner wall of endometrium. Where it is attached? Inner wall of uterus, that is endometrium. So this process is called implantation. Come to here. The fifth topic I gave you, fertilization and implantation. You know what is fertilization? Fertilization is the process of fusion of male and female gametes, that is a sperm and ovum, that leads to formation of a diploid cell zygote. Later this diploid cell will undergo repeated mitotic divisions that are called cleavages that will convert this unicellular zygote into multicellular embryonic stage, that is the morula. The number of blastomeres in the morula are 8 to 32. This morula again undergo modifications. By rearrangement of blastomeres, it will modify into blastula. The blastula of human embryos possess a fluid-filled cavity, so it is called as blastocyst. All this process takes place in the fallopian tubes of the female reproductive system. Now the blastocyst will move. It will enter into uterus. In this uterus, the blastocyst will attach to the inner layer or inner wall of the uterus, that is endometrium. This process is called implantation. Very important. Write down what is implantation. Implantation. Only for this definition I gave all this. This all process we will discuss during the embryogenesis topic. Just remember, for implantation I gave all these concepts. What is implantation? Very important. Write down, all of you. The process of attachment of blastocyst. The process of attachment of blastocyst to the inner wall of uterus. To the inner wall of uterus. For your understanding, write down as endometrium also, not a problem. The process of attachment of blastocyst into the inner wall of uterus, that is endometrium, is called as implantation. Is called as implantation. The process of attachment of blastocyst to the inner wall of uterus or endometrium is called implantation. You have to notice one thing here. If you will write this definition as the process of attachment of embryo to the inner wall of uterus, you won't get marks, because blastocyst is embryonic stage and morula also an embryonic stage. After blastocyst there will be gastrula. That gastrula also embryonic stage. Which stage will exactly attach it to the endometrium of uterus? That is a blastocyst. That is only called implantation. So which stage of embryo is responsible for the implantation? Blastocyst only, not morula, not gastrula. So don't write the word embryo, write the word blastocyst. The process of attachment of blastocyst to the inner wall of uterus or to the endometrium of the uterus is called implantation. We will discuss all the details of this morula and blastula and gastrula and all in the topic embryonic development or embryogenesis. At the time we will discuss. Is it clear about what is fertilization, what is implantation? Fertilization, the process of fusion of male and female gametes, is called fertilization. And what is implantation? The attachment of blastocyst to the inner wall of uterus is called implantation. Okay, right. Next, after completion of the topic, what's the next topic you are going to learn in this chapter? After this fertilization and implantation, pregnancy and gestation, or pregnancy and embryogenesis or embryonic development. Or gestation and embryogenesis or embryonic development, you may notice. This gestation is also called as pregnancy, gestation and embryonic development. Gestation and embryonic development, or it is also known as pregnancy. Gestation period means pregnancy period. That pregnancy and embryonic development are gestation and embryonic development. In this topic, we have to discuss what is the exact time period required for the completion of total embryonic development. That is commonly known as pregnancy period. Different animals have different time period to complete the embryonic developments. In human being, we all know that it is approximately 9 months, okay, plus or minus 1 week, okay. So 270 days plus or minus 1 week, and it is not same in all the animals. Different animals have different type of gestation periods. All that we have to discuss in this topic. At the same time, the embryonic development, how the zygote will modifies into embryo, and then how the embryo will modifies into the fetus, and what is the difference between this embryo and fetus, and how the fetus will complete the further development, and how the all systems in the baby will be developed. During first week of embryonic development, what will happens? In first month, what will happens? Second month, what will happens? Third month, fourth month, fifth month, like that, up to ninth month, what are the various modifications takes place in the embryo and fetus that we have to discuss in this concept. At last, we have to discuss about parturition and lactation. Parturition and lactation. What is parturition? In our common language, in our common terms, we are using the word delivery, but it is scientifically not acceptable, but commonly we are using the word delivery for this. Parturition means it is nothing but delivery. Scientifically, parturition means the expelling out of baby from the uterus of the mother to exterior after completion of gestation period. The gestation period in human being is 9 months, you all know that. After completion of 9 months, the fetus will be expelled out from the uterus of the mother to exterior, outside. So that is called parturition. Parturition means the expelling out of fetus from the uterus of mother to exterior after completion of gestation period. After completion of gestation period is called as parturition. So what is parturition? They may ask, what is parturition? The expelling out of fetus from the uterus of the mother to the exterior after completion of gestation period. If it is before completion of gestation period, what will happen? Before completion of 9 months, sometimes immature deliveries will be takes place in 7th month. Up to 7th month, the development will be must. Before 7th month, if there is any parturition will done, what will happen? The baby cannot be survived. We cannot call that as a parturition. We can call that as a abortion. We can call that as a abortion. There is a slight difference between the parturition and abortion. Both processes are same, but parturition takes place after gestation period. Abortion takes place initial days of gestation period. Okay, that you have to remember. After parturition, the baby will successfully survive in majority of the cases. But in abortion, baby cannot be survived. Lactation, you all know that human being is a viviparous organism, and it can nourishes their baby by giving milk or a body fluid. The process of production of milk after parturition is called lactation. Lactation means the process of production of milk by the mammary glands of mother to nourish the baby is called lactation. It is the last step in the production of offsprings. After production, up to parturition, it is for the production of offsprings. After production, to nourish the baby, to nourish the newborn, neonatal, there is a process that is lactation. Lactation not takes place in all animals. It is the character of only the mammalians. Mammalians have mammary glands. These mammary glands secretes mammary fluid, which is commonly known as milk. So this mammary fluid or milk is essential to nourish the newborn baby. It has high nutritional values. So the nourishment by the mother's milk is one of the very important nutritive advice for the newborn babies. So these are the concepts you are going to learn in this chapter. Still, I not yet started the chapter. I just gave the concepts what you are going to learn in this chapter, human reproduction. I just gave the concepts. What are the concepts you are going to learn in this chapter, human reproduction? We have to learn about the anatomy and physiology of male reproductive system, female reproductive system. What are the structures present in male and female reproductive system, and what are the functions of that? Both you have to learn. And after completion of that, how male and female organisms produce their gametes, spermatozoa and ova. That is the gametogenesis. Production of male gametes or spermatozoa is spermatogenesis. Production of ova is oogenesis. The two concepts you have to learn in the topic gametogenesis. After completion of gametogenesis, the reproductive cycle in female human being, that is the menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle, you have to learn what are the phases and what are the hormones that are responsible for maintenance of this menstrual cycle. All that we have to discuss. What is the importance of this in the primates that we have to learn. After that, the process of fusion of male and female gametes, how these male and female gametes will fuses. Before that, copulation is required. Copulation leads to insemination. Whenever insemination will be there, then there will be chances for fusion of male and female gametes. This fusion of male and female gametes takes place in the fallopian tubes of female reproductive system. We will discuss all that at the time of discussing this concept. And implantation, what is implantation? Implantation, I think you are all wrote that, important one, definition. The process of attachment of blastocyst to the inner wall of uterus is called implantation. Inner wall of uterus is endometrium. What are the remaining walls? 3 layers are there. Innermost layer is endometrium. 3 layers are there in the wall of uterus. What are that layers? We will discuss at the time of discussing about female reproductive system. And after completion of that, gestation, that is the time period in between formation of zygote or from implantation to parturition. The time period in between implantation to parturition is called gestation. The time period between implantation to parturition is called gestation. Commonly, we are called this as a pregnancy period. Okay, different animals have different type of different gestation periods. I will give all the details while discussing this topic. Next, embryonic development. In different months or different weeks of gestation period, different modifications will done in the embryo. What are that modifications? For example, in first month, what is the important development takes place in the embryo is formation of heart. We can notice heartbeat with a stethoscope. Okay. For example, in 6th month, what will happens? The baby, that means the fetus will open its eyelids for the first time. So baby will open its eyes in the 6 months. So like that, different months have different type of unique modifications, changes that we will discuss there in the embryonic development. And after that, parturition. It is nothing but time to deliver the baby to out, or it is the process of expelling out of baby from the uterus of the mother after completion of gestation period. Various type of hormones are required for all the process, all that we will discuss, how it is regulated, what are the phases in this parturition. At last, lactation. It is the last process. It is a post-parturitional process after delivery or after parturition to nourish the baby. the mammary glands, after 24 hours of delivery or parturition, the mammary glands of mother will start secretion of mammary fluid, that is milk, by the action of some hormones. Okay, so here two hormones, prolactin and oxytocin, play a vital role in the lactation. So with the help of this milk, mother will nourishes their baby. It is the unique character of mammalians. Human being also a mammalian. Because of that, human nourishes its baby by a body fluid produced by the mammary glands, that is mammary fluid. Okay, so these are the concepts we are going to discuss. From next class onwards, we will discuss about each and every concepts in detail. First, we will start with the male reproductive system in next class. Male reproductive system in next class, and after that we will continue all this. From this chapter for PUC, one 5 marks diagrammatic representation, either male reproductive system or female reproductive system will be there. So the two systems along with the various graphical representations, structure of sperm, structure of ovary, and also graphical representation of menstrual cycle, all that concepts also you have to focus. At the time of drawing diagrams on the board, you should follow carefully and practice that in your notebook. Okay, thank you.